In this video, we're going to talk about the proportional divider. Okay, these are called proportional dividers, and their main purpose is to be able to take an image, for example, something of one scale, and transfer it over to, say, your drawing paper or your canvas if you're into oil painting, for example, and you can either transfer it one-to-one. In other words, what you see here is what you want to put here in the exact scale of width, height. With this proportional divider, I have the option of taking this image and making it bigger or smaller. And it's real simple. You see, it comes with these two pointer sticks. There's one here and one here, and they're usually connected in the center or somewhere along the plane here, so not necessarily right in the center. And this allows for the adjustment of scale. So, for example, where I happen to have the divider here pegged, because this is removable, I can take this off, and I could pull this out, and I can adjust it to another hole, and then I'll lock it back in, for example. And this one allows me to go from, for example, let's say this is 1 inch, and translate that over to 1.5 inches. Now this one here, for example, let me see what I have it set to. You see here is a ruler, simple ruler, and I'll just measure 1 inch, for example, from here to here, and we'll see what kind of ratio I have this set at. So there's 1 inch, then I'll flip it over without changing anything, and you can see that that converts to 1.5 inches. Okay, so I have the ratio from 1 to 1.5, or 1.5, it's the same thing, 1 to 1.5. Or, if I move it this way, I can make this 1, and then this ratio here would be like, what is that, 0.75, 3/4? So that would be scaling downwards. This would be scaling upwards. So let's say that I want to go ahead and I want to transfer this to this paper, and I want to make her, I'm going to make her smaller. Okay, now if you've seen my video on the grid method, it's a very simple method of just drawing grid lines, like every inch maybe, or 1/2 inch, it's up to you, as long as you make them all the same, all 1 inch, for example, if I choose 1 inch, and you'll do it that way, and then you'll go across another inch, down and down. And then if I wanted to draw the exact same size, I would make the grid on this paper also 1 inch. So I would take it, and I this way, 1 down inch, down another inch, down another inch. And then what I see inside this grid or this square is exactly what I will sketch in the exact square or grid on the substrate, whether it's canvas or a drawing paper. So it'd be 1-to-1. If I wanted to make this 1 to 1.5, then while these are all, let's say, 1 inch squares, these would be all 1.5 inch squares. See how easy that is? But not everybody wants to have a grid that they have to erase off of their paper. And I admit that that gets a little annoying for me as well, but I still happen to like the basic grid method because I like to get right into the shading part, which is my favorite relaxing part of drawing. And the initial sketch, to me, is very tedious. And I get less pleasure than maybe, you know, others that draw might like that process, the initial sketching, not me. But anyway, but there are other ways to do it, and that is to use the proportional divider. So in this case here, what I may want to do is I may want to reference. I need reference points, okay? Somewhere to start so that all measurements will come from that point, that reference point. Or you can have more than one reference point. So what I may do, for example, is I'll take my ruler, I'll take this ruler right here, and let's just say I just find someplace on her face here, and I'm going to draw a line with a sharp tip. So let me sharpen this, get a nice sharp tip, and I'm going to draw a line. I can also find or make a cross point here. So for example, maybe I'll take oh, I don't know, let's see, right underneath her left eye here, for example. So I might go straight across that way, draw a line this way, and I could use this as my reference lines. So what I would need to do, and I know it may be hard to see the line, the horizontal and vertical line that I've drawn, but then what I'd want to do is I'd want to come over here, and first off I'll draw my vertical line. I'll just draw it in the middle of the page here, very lightly. I'll just go ahead and I'll just put my center line here, just anywhere I want. That's going to be where her, let's say her nose, bridge of her nose is right here. So I can choose anywhere on that paper to put this cross line, because I'm going to shrink this drawing down. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this thing so that everything I do is going to translate into a smaller area here. So for example, I'm going to go from that very point, and I'm going to want to know where is the bottom of her nose. So I'm going to go right to where the two lines cross. That's the very center that I just arbitrarily chose. So I'm going to put it right here, and then I'm going to find the bottom of her nose, and it looks like it's about right there to there. Okay, that looks about right, if my eyes are not deceiving me. And then being careful not to move it, I'm going to take it over here, and I'm going to put it to the center here, and then I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to mark it as the bottom of her nose, just very so lightly, because I'm not left-handed and right now I'm using the wrong hand, but filming this is a little cumbersome. Alright, so while here the distance was from here to here, when I translated it is only from here to here. And so I have this as a reference point. This is the bottom, just the bottom left of her nose, the right to us but left to her. It's just right there, so I know it's just right here. Then I can do things like, if I come straight across, let's say for example I want to go straight down from this line here, the horizontal line, and remember what side you're using, the big side, because you're going to go down to the small side. I come over here, for example, to this horizontal line, and I want to find the left side of her nose, which is right there, and then I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to say, okay, the left side of her nose is right here, but that doesn't give me the distance between here and here yet. But now that I have the distance between here and here, which is here and here, now I can go and measure across this way with the big side again. I go like this, to the horizontal, to the vertical line, excuse me, to find out the width here. Flip this over, come over here, and since I know it's down to this level here, there is the left side of her nose, and I'll get rid of my initial mark right there. And so now I know where the bottom of her nose is, I know where the left side of her nose is, and if I look over here, I'm going to go to the right side of her nose, or right to me, left to her. And again, I'm going to go right to the center of the lobe, to that horizontal line, and I'm going to measure that, turn it around, come over here, and that way I'm just going to get the distance down, which is right here. I'm going to put a little line here to tell me that's how far down. But how far across? Again, I'm going to move this over to here with the big end of the thing here, because remember we're shrinking, and I'm going to get that as perfect as I can. And then I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to find that the right side of her nose is right there. And I could also tell, now that I've done this, and I'm going to get rid of that initial mark, I can see that there's a slight slant up. So the left side of her nose is here, but the right side of her nose is here. And if you look over here, you can see it's the same thing. Here's the left, but here's the right. It's at an angle like that. See? And I've already translated it to here. At this point here, I can come over here and find out where the left side of the, or for her, the right side of the bridge of her nose right here. Go from the center. Measure where that is. Flip it around. And I can see that it's right there. Perfect. I can see that the left side of her nose is right on the horizontal and vertical lines coming together. So I'll just go ahead and shade that in real quick here too. So now I have the left and right side of her nose. And let me just scoot in here so you can see exactly what I've done. So there's her right side of the nose, here's her left side of the nose. You can see it's got that angle. There is the actual bottom of her nose, which is actually over here, but I intersected the downward part, which is right just barely to the left of the center. So I know that it's just a simple matter of going down a little lower, which I have done. And so now I could see, okay, this is her bridge, this is the width of her nose, and every little area that you see here, like from the vertical line over to the shading area right here, again, you would measure that, then you'd flip it, and you translate it over to here, and you would know there's where your shading area will be. You come back over here, where does this, I don't know what you call this area of the nose here, where the nostril flares out from here, but you have this bulbish area here. No disrespect to the lady on the picture here. I understand she's pretty important in England. But like this area right here, again, I want to find out how far it is where her nostril is going to start. Come over here, and I find that it's right there. See, and then it's going to kind of come around like so. You know, and then you can just refine it again. I'm going to go over here. How far to the shaded area? I might as well just get that done, because the shaded area is where her nostril starts. I come over here, and I find that it's right there. So I'm going to go up like that. Then I'm going to find out, okay, when does this part of the nose actually cross from one side of that vertical to the next? And I'm going to measure that. And I see that that is, see, it comes down to here like so. So I'm going to measure this as from here to here. Transfer it over. It's from here to here. So it comes out from this area here, and it's going to go out like so. See? And I could also see that from this bulbish area here, again, no disrespect, that's just what I call it. Okay, from the nostril, it's straight across, so I could just go straight across, like so. If you can see that, just went straight across. And from here, it angles up straight across. I go straight across, just ever so gently. I want to know, where does this crease in her smile here, her cheeks, where does that start? That's because that's where her nostril ends. So I want to know, where does her nostril end? Again, take the big end here, go right here to where it looks like where it ends. And let me get that gauge in there. Alright, it's about right. Give it a little bit more. About right there, looks like. It's about right there to the top of the... That's a little more. That would be the top of her, right on the top of her nostril, right there. I'm just going to go like this, and I just want the distance down. I'm going to flip this over, and I notice that the distance down comes to right there. I'm just going to put a small horizontal line as the distance down, because now I need to know how far to go this way. So I'm going to go over here from the top of her nostril to here, and then I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to find that it's right there. So that's where the nostril has its top. Okay, then it flips over. That's good. All right, and then this one here, do the same exact thing. Here's the top of her nostril here. Flip that over, go from the vertical line here to that top of the nostril. I'm going to go over here after flipping this over, and I'm going to put my little vertical line here very lightly, because I need to know how far down to go. So I'm going to go on like this, and it's about right there. Try to get as precise as you can, because this is one of the most important parts of realistic drawing, is that you draw exactly what you see, and if you're off just a little bit, it will show up in your drawing, or it'll show up as not a good thing. Let me just put it that way. All right, so I got the top here, and then I can go ahead and make this connection, and that's what it looks like there. And then this part here is shaded. I'm going to get the shaded part in here. And we'll flip it over, and I'm going to find the shaded parts right there. So that's going to come off of here, and that's going to go here, and that's all the shaded area right there. Okay. And then you can just keep on going. You're going to draw in the nostrils as you see it on here, and again, use your divider, but I'm just going to do it real quick here. But that's her nose, and if you notice, I shrunk it down from this big down to just that big, and by the time I'm done, her whole head is going to be smaller on this sheet of paper. And another thing too is, although we only have this vertical and horizontal line, and that's all we started with to do this drawing, once you accurately draw the locations of these various areas of our face, you can then use those areas as reference points. Let's say, for example, you want to know where the left eye, where the bottom lid crosses over. You can use this like so, measure from there to there, and then do the same from here to here, and it shows that it's right here. Or you can use, of course, that horizontal line just the same. Or if I want to find out, well, how far does her mouth here, the end of her mouth, come from the nostril? Well, sure, you can go from the vertical line over, you can go from the horizontal line down and find that, but then you're going to want to make sure that then the measurement from the nostril to there is also in the correct proportion. Otherwise, you know that you've done something wrong and you need to go back and find what that is. So I can come over here, for example, and this will be the last part of my demo here, is I'm going to find that, okay, we have the mouth. Let's see, the corner of the mouth that I'm going to go is right here. Let me zoom in a little bit here so you can see that. So I'm going to go from the vertical line that I've drawn, and I'm going to measure exactly the distance from left to right where that mouth ends, right there. And then I'm going to take the other side and I'm just going to put a small little mark showing from left to right how far that mouth will go. Then I can come over here from the horizontal line down and find out that same spot over to that horizontal line, which interestingly enough, it's almost the same distance. I don't really have to change this much. So that's actually square. But anyway, it's about right there. So that's good. Then I'm going to take this, where my little mark is right here, and I'm going to put this down, and it's way up here. So this is the end of her mouth. I'll put a little dot there, and let me get rid of this little mark. Make sure you make your marks very light because you're going to want to erase them. Okay, so if this is going to be the tip of her mouth, from here is actually here on the transfer sheet, then the question is the proportion, the distance between her nostril and her mouth, tip of a mouth, correct on your drawing that you already have the nose drawn? So I'll go and I'll put that back on there like so, and I want it right on the side of that nostril right there, and make sure I got that correct. Looks like it's correct, almost. All right, a little bit more, there we go. All right, so that looks good right there. Then I'm going to flip this over and this should match. Okay, and as you can see, from the far end of that nostril to the tip of the mouth, it's correct. It's right on. So you just keep doing that, and I know it's time consuming. You want to take your time, but eventually when you're done, you'll have this image, this photo image here. You'll have it sketched out in correct proportion and reduced in size with the use of the proportional divider. And just all you need is a couple of reference points. Now, one other thing too is they come in different ways, I guess. I was going to say shapes and sizes, but the shapes are pretty much the same. It's just two cross pieces and a way to adjust it along the plane here so that you can change the ratio from one end to another. This one's from Derwent. It's made out of wood. This one is not one of my favorites, and I'll tell you why. Because the points on here are really big. They're very big, and I find that to be kind of cumbersome trying to get, you know, accurate distances and everything. It just, I would rather have a point. This one here has points, so you can get really pinpoint. It's made out of just cheap plastic. This one here is called the Accuracy. Accuracy is the one that I happen to be using. I don't know if you can see that right there, if we can get that in focus. Maybe put my hand in the way, that often works. There you go. It says Accuracy, and it's just called the proportional divider. And it's not that expensive, Accuracy. But I happen to like this. It's very easy to use, very light. This is just bulky. I know some recommend this thing. I'm not one of them. I don't like that they're not pointy enough. I think it's a little cumbersome, a little bulky, but hey, to each their own. It is more expensive. It's made out of wood. It's got this metal screw thing, which is nice. So it's got a nicer adjuster on here, of course, but you're paying for it. This one's just a plastic thing. You pull it out, pull the pin out, and move it. So anyway, to each their own, whatever they like. But that's the simple use of a proportional divider. I find it to be a very useful tool. I use it all the time. Even when I do use the grid method, which is my favorite, though it is the messiest, I'll still use this within the squares themselves to make sure that I am drawing exactly what I see in the grid here as in over here, and I'll just use it like this, one to one. Okay, well there you go. Thanks again for watching. If you like this discussion on the proportional divider, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.